Welcome back to the Finlay and Luke Show, episode 26. I'm not with Finlay again today. I'm here with Kyle from Magpie 24/7. How are you, mate?
Well, good, mate. It's uncharted territory being on this podcast, but it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to connect with another set of people, and yeah, that's what we really started out to do when me and Paul started this podcast up. So to connect with people like yourself, it's nice to have. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Because I remember it's been a few months ago now. I remember seeing you guys on Twitter. I remember thinking, oh, these guys look alright, because there are a lot of Newcastle United Twitter groups, etc. Some of them a lot more reliable than others. Some just blame Joe Linton. You can, if you're a Newcastle fan, you'll know which one I'm on about.
Yeah.
But yeah, mate. So just how did Magpie 24/7 start?
Ooh, that's a good question to start off with. Well, basically, you might know me from Newcastle Fans TV. I'm Paul as well, but towards the end of the last season, the end of last season, we weren't happy on NFTV, and towards the end, there was a couple of arguments and stuff like that, and it was clear that Lee, obviously, who I have a lot of respect for, and so does Paul, wanted to go one way and wanted a new, fresh direction. And me and Paul wanted to go about our business a certain way. So we started Magpie 24/7 up about a week before the end of the season, and we just transitioned into that over the summer and then this season, and it's going really well. People are interacting with all the time, and really want to get involved with the podcast that we do, and basically we're memo, mine and Paul's, is just to connect with as many people as possible and interact. I mean, if followers is a thing to go off, then we're doing all right in that department. But I don't really. It's just interacting with as many people as possible, big channels, small channels, whatever it may be. That's kind of what we're wanting to do.
Yeah, I suppose with a fan channel, the whole point is to interact with fans. There are a lot of fan channels for so-called bigger clubs who just act like prats and scream for a few hours, get millions of views, and you think it's not real, that sort of stuff. I know, like Man United full-time Devils. Because my mates, I know the people there, and they're good. Like, they're a proper fan channel, and like yourself, Newcastle Fan TV, a proper fan channel, stuff like that. So I think interacting with the fans is most important, because as soon as you just go to more of a, oh fucking hell, we're losing, screaming and that, it sort of takes it away. One more a personality.
It's a good discussion to have, because like I've met the AFTV lot, which you're probably referring to as the Screamers, and DT, and that he's sound. Honestly, he's a sound bloke, DT. I think he is very passionate about Arsenal, and you can see that, and it comes across.
I can understand him being passionate, but everyone else is just
Troops at like.
Yeah,
I have a lot of respect for Troops and how he carries himself. I just don't know why he went to America and started screaming over there instead. It's the kit launch thing. I just like, Arsenal lost the game, and he had shirts out on Barpool Sports or whatever it is within 20 minutes of the game ending, Arteta out, and like I disagreed with that. Although I don't think he was behind that. It's like they're using Troops as a way to engage with Arsenal fans, and they're doing it in the wrong way because they're not winning at the minute. But I have a lot of respect for what Robbie and that does on AFTV, but they are controversial, and I know a lot of people disagree with it. But I've met Adam McCullough before,
Adam sound guy,
and actually he did a podcast, Stratford Paddock. He started up with, and they did a podcast why they left and stuff, and that really spoke to me. You know, it was like, Christ, they felt a lot similar to the way I felt it towards the end of me NFTV days. And like that kind of, I wouldn't say it was the main reason, but it was like a very striking fact as to why me and Paul started up there Magpie 24/7, because we're looking at it and being like, Christ, he's saying a lot of things, and it's like, but I've met McCall a couple of times, and he's a sound lad, and they're a canny lot out there, full-time Red Devils. What do you think of Goldbridge?
With Mark Goldbridge, I think you see him in his United stuff, and then you see him in whether it is like on Jack Mate's Happy Hour. I don't know if you've seen him on that.
Yeah, I listen to that all the time.
Completely different. And it makes you think, I can understand you're different in certain scenarios, but I think he doesn't mean any harm. I think he generally just supports his club.
Yeah.
But it's because there are certain levels to it. Like me, like I got a notification yesterday. It's a year since Miggy scored his first goal for us,
Yeah.
and I saw my video and I was screaming. Like honestly, I don't know what my neighbours must have thought. They must have thought what was going on. I
My
remember,
neighbours must hate me, mate, when the match was on. Trust.
because like I've never celebrated as much as when Miggy scored.
It was a good moment. Like I was in the Gallagher corner when it happened. Just
Yeah,
the sheer joy of when he scored, and I was so happy for him. There was only one or two moments that season I thought were better. Tottenham away, because the atmosphere
yeah,
that day was unbelievable, and when Matty scored, because I went to the same school as Matty, and like I'm from the same area and all
yeah.
Shields and stuff, and to see him score was like it was
It's on his
seeing.
debut against United.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was. It was just everything. It topped. It couldn't have been against a better team because obviously Sunderland are shit, in
yeah,
League One and that. So man, you are like my biggest rivals because of
yeah.
me mates and stuff. And for Matty, a local lad, to score the winner against Man United, and nobody had heard who he was. It was that was the feel good moment of last season for me. Like,
With last season, I felt like for me, I'll be honest, I thought we were going to get relegated straight away, and then I
yeah.
saw we spent 40 million on Joel Linton, and I love that man. He does try, and I really want him to do well. Like it was like Miggy when he first came. I really want him to do well, and now
Yeah.
Miggy's all right. I just want Joel Linton to do well, and he's doing well the past few weeks. Like,
Yeah, he's
what's his
been all
big?
right since he's been put up front with since he's been put up front with Wilson. I think we've seen a lot better Joe Linton, but the problem is I think a lot of fans give him a lot of stick last year. Now I was one of them because like late in the season I was starting to think, well, he's not doing much up front on his own. But it's the problem isn't Joe Linton. It could be Cristiano Ronaldo up front would still have the same issues. When you put someone up front and the closest player to them is 30 yards away, he's not going to do much with the ball. And it's like the problem is Steve Bruce, and
Yes,
it's starting to become more the majority are starting to realise this. But like Steve Bruce has done that lad no favours at all because the way we play just doesn't suit him. I mean, it took him what
18 months.
18 months and over
Yeah,
50 games to say, oh wait, he's not a striker. I mean, we've knew that for the last 49 games,
exactly. I
and it's
don't get
like
it.
the penny has just dropped with Bruce, and now we'll have to play either one of 5-3-2 or 4-4-2 to accommodate that. But the problem is Bruce, mate. I'm sure we'll talk about
Yeah.
that throughout this show and how much of a problem he actually is.
Well, we might as well go on to it now. So, like I said, I thought we were going to get relegated under Bruce last year. I had
Yeah,
no faith. Joe Linton, I thought, you know what, that's a really good signing. That hadn't turned out to be that, but he's getting there. Carroll on a free, no.
PR stunt.
PR stunt.
Yeah.
Emil Krafth. He's just a right. He's just a right-footed Lazar. That's all he is. He's a right-footed Lazar.
He's shitting me. He is. I like. It's a tough one because the season before under Rafa, the one screaming problem was a right back, and throughout the whole time under Rafa, we brought Jesus Gomez, Yedlin was still getting games. We brought Manquillo in,
Yeah.
and like the one the one thing was like if we get a right back, a passing midfielder that's better than Shelby, and maybe a centre forward to accommodate Rondon, we could have challenged for the top 8, top 7 under Rafa, but Bruce came in. He brought in all these players that didn't make sense. The one that did make sense was probably St. Maximin, and he was the best
Yeah.
player. And we're just going backwards, mate. I mean, we had so much optimism after we beat Fulham 4-0 away
Yeah.
from
That
home,
was one of the
thinking,
best things ever.
yeah, it was an unbelievable end. But we were hoping Rafa would stay on and we could climb the league again. But obviously the establishment held Rafa back, and Rafa ended up going to China. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think under this regime, like obviously Bruce is the problem with the football and that, but the bigger picture is we're never going to strive anywhere whilst the owners here. So it's like Bruce is the big problem, but the big problem's always been Mike Ashley.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to get relegated this season
Oh,
still.
is it one off?
No, you still admit. Can you
I
hear me
just
still?
yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
it. It
it's
just
like
went off.
that.
It just froze.
But yeah, I think we're going to get relegated this season, right? Because of how close it is, right? I mean, fucking Arsenal's in relegation battle, right? And, all the media going, oh, Bruce is doing so well. Da, da, da. He's not. When you look at it, the amount of chances, like the Fulham one was awful. His selection, I can understand you had a bout of COVID throughout the entire team. I understand that selection is difficult. But it's the fact that he then makes excuses and says, I'm not making excuses. Every team we come against, it must be the best team ever to him. He goes, well, they're a very good team. Fucking hell, man.
You said it about Newport, man. I mean, come on.
It was new, but that was so frustrating.
We've had so many frustrating moments this season. Even when we've won, there's almost been a stigma about it, because his mates will come out at his defence as soon as the final whistle goes and be, oh, look at Bruce, and text into a show and all this, and Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton have been the main two that have been poking the stick at Newcastle fans. Yet Sutton supports Celtic and he's constantly at Neil Lennon. Saying he has to go and all this stuff, and they're second in the division. Yet Newcastle fans want to have a little bit of hope when we're playing and play with a little bit of fight and stuff. And under Bruce, we just don't have it. The players look dejected every week, and it's like Bruce isn't the answer, but we're told every week he is the answer. And we've got to draw it home to Fulham. And Robbie Savage was like, oh, you're 6 points off the Champions League. Yeah, but we're also 7 points off the relegation zone. And considering we've got Man City, Liverpool and Leicester over Christmas, all Burnley have to do is win like they did last night against Wolves a couple of times, and we're in that.
Exactly.
And we've got Callum Wilson, and that's the difference. And Maximin's got to come back from COVID and stuff. So we've got them too, and that's the difference, mate. That's the difference between us being 17th to where Sheffield United are. That's literally the difference. Because if it weren't for Wilson this season, like I know Darlow's been getting a lot of if it weren't for Darlow, but I look at
it's
West
Wilson
Brom,
as well. It's Wilson and Darlow.
I think with Darlow, he'd had a really good season. But you look at West Brom, they've got Sam Johnston who's making as many saves, but they don't have a centre forward. And look at where they are and look at where we are. So the difference is Callum Wilson for me. And if it weren't for that man, honestly, mate, we would be up shit creek without a paddle.
Exactly. But going on to like Bruce as a whole, there was a rumour that a few days ago there was a bust up in the squad between Lascelles and Saint-Maximin. And I have seen Keith Dowie's tweet, because that's what I'm going to refer to. Then Emil Krafth liked to comment saying that there's been a bust up.
Yeah.
It all said about COVID. He was going a bit mental. Keith Dowie then tweeted, because I got it up on my screen, club source confirmed that Captain Jamal Lascelles and Alan Saint-Maximin are two players suffering long-term effects of COVID-19. No date set yet for either player's return. I then asked Keith if there's rumours of a bust up. He said not the case. I trust Keith more than most, but what's your take on it, mate?
I thought it was really timing, because they were starting to pick up traction. The rumours were picking up traction in that. And I just think with the club saying that, obviously Bruce has been saying he can't disclose this information about COVID and stuff because of medical stuff. And like, I just thought it was timely that, they've got COVID now. And like, with Maximin coming on Instagram and doing his live.
Yeah, I was on that last night.
and saying such and such about him loving Steve Bruce, and I suppose a bit more at ease saying that it actually has been COVID rather than a bust up. But yeah, up until that point, I was very much of it's very timely and coincidental from the club to say that in line with the rumours going around, because it wouldn't surprise us, because as fans, we feel dejected watching this every week.
Yeah.
And the lack of plan and the lack of leadership and the lack of management and coaching. Imagine how the players feel. I mean, Sean Longstaff, I mean...
He just doesn't look like he cares anymore.
The player that burst onto the scene against Liverpool on Boxing Day under Rafa, compared to the one now, and I've got I've got a high affiliation with the Longstaffs in that, but like, it's a shadow of a player, mate. He just looks completely different to what he was when Rafa was about, and it's like, it's such a shame, because he's one of many. You look up and down the team and players that have declined since Rafa left. I think Shea has deteriorated as a footballer. Paul Dummett you don't see anymore, barring obviously the game the other night. Lascelles has went down in terms of how well he plays and how well he leads the team. He doesn't shout nearly as much as he used to under Rafa. He used to be barking orders left, right, and centre. Although I think Fernandez has been our best defender, I still think he's went downhill a little bit in terms of like, everybody's declining, mate, and it's just like, it's affecting some more than others. But the lack of coaching is definitely on display with this team, because the amount of shots we're conceding, the amount of games we're getting beaten, the lack of plan when we play games, it's all there to see. But his mates keep telling me he's great and that we expect too much as fans, and it's like it's like a war against the press where Steve Bruce is
Yeah.
concerned. It's bizarre.
But when I spoke to James DeMarco and Sarah Zamoridan from the We Are the Geordies documentary the other week, and I said to them off camera, like, like, where does it go from here? Like, because they were filming it and Rafa left, and just today they were going to release it, so they delayed it, and they said, "There's no hope. Like, that's it. There's nothing left." And it feels like that for the most of it. Like, you see players like Florian Lejeune, right? I consider Lejeune to be one of our better defenders. He may have his moments, but he's one of our better defenders. And we loan him out and then play Krafth at centre half, which I don't get. We then got Yedlin at right back, who is not a full back. He may be decent in the Championship, but the Championship's a different
Yeah,
kettle of fish. Manquillo, don't know where he is, because I thought Manquillo had a good start to the season. Then got left back. Lewis has had a rough few games. He can learn. But Jetro was available, and everyone loves Jetro.
yeah.
I
did
miss
as
that
well.
man.
He's been teasing me a little bit. I think he will come back in January on loan. I don't think we'll buy anybody. I think we'll bring in Bentaleb, unfortunately.
I don't want Bentaleb again.
He's terrible. But and Jetro as well. I think Jetro's a breath of fresh air. I think he'd help Jamal Lewis a lot, especially on the defensive side of the ball,
Yeah,
because Jamal Lewis going forward, I think in terms of crossing,
he's
he's
all
the best
right.
fullback we've had in a long time. For he's possession at the front end of the field, which he rarely gets because of how defensive we are. But defensively, I think he's very poor. He doesn't. His marking ability is shocking.
The goal against West Brom really showed that, where
Yeah,
Finlay came across him, he's just leaning back to go it. Where it was me, because I play in goal centre off. I've
yeah,
always thought just fucking go across it, head it. Whether that's
exactly.
right or not, it don't matter. I'm fucking shy at football, but the point I can see where Jetro like comes in, but he don't only help Lewis, he helps Alan a lot.
Yeah, exactly, and it helps because he's good friends with Maximin as well, and that was one of our outlets last season. That left hand side when Maxi was playing with Jetro, and they would. I mean, that goal against Man United is an
Yeah,
example. Maxi runs 20 yards. He plays it to Jetro. Jetro cuts inside on his left and plays it in the Matty, and Matty puts it in the net. That doesn't happen without those two. And
yeah.
you look at the amount of goals last season that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for those two. Man City, Liverpool, all these goals that were scored wouldn't have happened if it weren't for
He
them.
was one of
So
the best fullbacks in the league.
he was by a street, and it was a damn shame to see how it ended. With him basically
It's
practically
against
crying on the
Chelsea,
floor
wasn't
against
it?
Chelsea.
Yeah.
I I really hope he comes back, because I think he can help Jamal Lewis on the defensive side of the ball, and I think he'd slot into that first team spot very well.
Yeah.
Plus, he can play in a various amount of positions. He can play in midfield, although I wouldn't recommend that. He can play in midfield. He can play on the left hand side. He can play left back. So yeah, I think he'd be a good player to bring in. But I hope we'll bring in a better midfield player than Bentaleb, because I know that's where Bruce will look to go. But my God.
I remember was it Southend? Who was the team that Sam Maximan scored against in extra time last year in the FA Cup?
Oxford.
Oxford, yeah. He was shit against Oxford.
He was shit
And I
against
thought,
everybody.
if you can't pass against a League One side, because obviously we never have possession, so I always hate cup games because we got the ball. What the fuck do we do with it?
Yeah.
So to see him struggle to make passes there, like Longstaff, he looked all right in that game, obviously scoring. Joe Linton scored.
It was a nice
Like,
finish as well from Joe.
it was. I just think the way we set up, the whole point of last season is Steve Bruce went, well, let's go to Rafa's way. And it worked. And then he changed back. And I know he's trying to accommodate to Joe Linton, but I'm not being funny. As much as I love Joe Linton, you play to all players' strengths, not just one. Because that back five with the two midfielders, and then you had your front three, it worked well. We had Perez, Almiron, and Rondon. It worked like a fucking treat.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. When you're a manager, you look to put your own imprint on a team, and yet we're sitting here. He's 18 months in, and we still don't know what he wants to do with this team. And he keeps saying, "Oh, I'm a manager, 20 years experience, and all this." A manager,
It's not
20
one
years
fuck all.
exactly. He's done nothing. He's won a playoff final, which is exactly the same as what Scott Parker, who's been in a manager job for 18 months, ironically, and he's won the same amount as Steve Bruce hasn't that it has in 20 years.
I like Scott Parker a lot.
Yeah, he's a really good lad. He was fantastic when he was at Newcastle as well, as we're ball playing slash defensive midfielder that we had in, I think it was the mid noughties. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, he was brilliant, but yeah, just to not having a stamp on a team within 18 months, that to me makes me think you just haven't got a clue what you're doing. And if it goes wrong, you'll be like, oh well, we'll go back to the Rafa way, because he's like, oh well, I'd prefer to play 4-2-3-1. I'd like to do this, and I'd like to do that. Instead of waffling in a press conference, why don't you actually go and do it? Do you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like it's like as frustrated as we are as fans, that I'm willing to bet there's at least 40% of that dressing room thinking exactly the same, if not worse, there than we are, because they're thinking, you know what, every week we're told that we can't beat the opposition, we're told the opposition are fantastic, we're told to defend, we're not allowed to press the ball, we're attacking is horrendous, we'll have to hope we don't get smashed every week. And it's like they must feel the same in any way, but the most frustrating thing for them is they can't say anything. We can go on
Yeah.
podcasts and go online and vent our opinion, but I feel sorry for them players, because they have to play under him, they have to train under him, and they probably think, well, I was playing better 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean? But nobody will take that into account because they can't physically say anything. I think a lot will come out when he's left Newcastle,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really frustrating to see a team that was doing so well a couple of years ago under Rafa do so poor now. But because we've had a couple of lucky results and a couple of really shithouse performances and a couple of shithouse wins this
Yeah.
season, we're told, "Oh, Steve Bruce is a great manager." When we've watched every minute of every game and realised he's not.
That
And
Spurs game was ridiculous.
the only one I've seen more jammy was the Everton game the season before, because I
Like
went to
Lejeune scored the overhead kick.
yeah. So I was at Goodison that night, and like, was shit. It took 89 minutes to get a shot on target, mate. He took all the strikers off. He put all the defenders on, and as damage limitation because he didn't want to lose by more. Yet we nicked one through Lejeune with the unbelievable overhead kick, and then we scored again through Lejeune, and it was like.
What the
I,
fuck?
I did a video afterwards, and I was sitting there creased. I was like, "There's no way we picked up a point." There was Everton fans fuming after the game, the proper storming, and as me and Paul are walking past these people, like lucky bastards and that, and it's like, "Yeah, what lucky bastards?" And
I
it's like,
remember I was in the pub at the time, and I was with this girl. I remember I saw it on my phone. I thought, right, okay, that'll be it. So I'm chatting, and I remember I went to the smoking area. I've had a look and went, fucking hell, it's 2-0. Go back inside. When what's the time? I went, all right, fucking 2-2. I remember going, hang on, I'm reading it right. That Lechon scored twice in 2 minutes.
like it. I couldn't believe it. Like I honestly couldn't believe it. Half the row that we were on in the away end had left. They'd gone. So I
Yeah.
had plenty of room to celebrate in that. But like I couldn't believe it. And like the Tottenham game, it was as bad because we didn't have a look in. Tottenham could have been 5-6. If we had lost that game 6 or 7-0, we'd have no complaints.
Allah
And
helped a lot.
then we'll get the penalty, and Wilson obviously dispatches the penalty, and we'll nick a point. And it's like we're told Bruce is great for that. And if we'd have got beat by 6 or 7 or something like that, you wouldn't have Robbie Savage going on about it. He'd probably say Newcastle was shit and shocking. But because it was 1-1, he's like, oh, well, he's great. And a draw away from home at Tottenham, it's like, what do you want? And it's like,
It's fucking annoying. Like, the worst one for me this season was the Leeds game.
oh God, it was bad, that, like. It was really bad defensively. I mean, that fourth goal, and then for him to come out in a press conference a couple of days later and was like, "Oh, I understand the fourth and fifth goal." Could you imagine Kevin Keegan or Sir Bobby Robson coming out and saying, "Oh, I understand the fourth and fifth goal were conceded. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be conceding 4 or 5 against a newly promoted side." I know Bielsa's teams are talked about as great and they are pretty good. Like I love watching them.
Until they played Man United and they got fucking battered.
Exactly, and like. That's how you beat Leeds United. You press them, but we didn't press them. We just got bullied by them. And like as bad as we were, we still scored 2 goals. We could have scored 5 or 6 if we had a go at them. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, but what do I know?
That's what I always say.
20 years experience he's got, so Bruce knows best, as we're told.
I just don't get how he can go from being one of the better defenders of his generation to not know how to coach in defending. Because that fourth goal, especially, I'm looking at it, I'm going, hang on. Krafth, there's a fucker behind you. I remember shouting at me TV, and then it's just, I think it was Krafth and Kieran Clark left. I think it was Isaac Hayden just ran back,
Yeah.
bursting everywhere. And there's still 3 people to the left.
Oh, queuing it. They were queuing. It was embarrassing. There's just 3 of them. Which one's going to hit it past Darlow? I've never seen defending like it under Pardew, under Carver, under McLaren. Never have I seen defending like that in a scenario where 3 people are queuing to hit it and no one's around them.
Yeah.
It's like Sunday League and the defences had a piss up the night before. That's what it was like. It was embarrassing to say the least, mate. It really was. And it's only going to get worse under Bruce, sadly. I mean, we'll play Brentford tonight, and
That's
I'm
the next
dreading it.
point.
It's a quarter final, and I'm dreading it, mate. I am. I can't. I cannot wait to get it over with. I mean, if we win, great. We're in a semi final, but under Bruce, we'll be playing one of the bigger teams, and it'll be like, oh, just sit back and hope, because that's all he can do. That's his go-to. Or hope, sit back, put men behind the ball, and if we get a counter attack through a Miggy or something like that, and we're notch, then great. But there's no plan other than that, mate. And even if we get through, we'll hype ourselves up for a semi-final just to be let down. You know,
I'm about to say, because we got to the quarter final when we were in the championship under Rafa, and we lost. Was it on penalties to Hull that we lost?
penalties to Hull, aye.
Yeah.
Devastated that night because I thought if we'd have took
I thought we could have
Man
won it.
because we would have got Man United in the semi-final, and I honestly
Mm.
think even as a championship team, we would have beat Man United home and got a draw away from home for sure. And I think we would have been in the final as a championship team.
The form that Dwight Gale was in, I think he got injured, I think, just after the Hull game. So he may not have played the semi-final if we beat Hull, but the form he was in at the time was unreal.
It was. He could not
Even Vernon Anita was looking mint. And
right back, I
I
remember.
never used to like Vernon Anita, but when he was at right back, I just had confidence and I didn't know what it was. Johan Gouffran as well. I couldn't believe it.
Like that's always the story I tell when people say how good was Rafa Benitez. Be like, Johan Gouffran was shocking as a footballer. He couldn't do anything with the ball before Rafa came in. He had a handful of goals here and there, but mainly he was useless.
Yeah.
And we thought he was going to leave in that summer in the championship, but he stayed. Rafa kept him on, and he was really solid in that championship season.
That goal against Derby, I was in the away end for that. That was a fucking goal.
Like, I looked at it, I celebrated, and I was like, who was that? And it was Gouffran. I was thinking, are you taking the piss? I thought it was Shelby or something, because Shelby can do that with a ball. But Gouffran, I was thinking, my God, because I've never, it was like one of the fastest goals I've seen in terms of like the speed of the ball. Probably the only faster goal I've seen was probably Martin's against Tottenham 10, 12 years ago. Where he hit
Is that in the red kit?
Yeah,
like the red
burgundy
kit,
and gold and all that. And it was just such a surprising goal from such a surprising player. And I love getting proved wrong when it comes to players, but I've never been proven wrong more so than when Gouffran had that season in the championship. I actually wanted him to stay in the end.
I did.
He ended up going to
Turkey, I think it was.
Turkey, surprisingly, but he had one hell of a last season, like for Newcastle.
Fair play to him.
Everyone's surprised. Yeah, fair play to him indeed. He was class under Rafa, and that's the
Says
G.
a lot.
I mean, you look at Rafa, you won a Champions League final with Milan Baros up front. Like, tells you all you need to know. It does. The man's a genius. Bruce couldn't win a game against the League Two side with Milan Baros up front. That's it. Just the fact that the two of them are compared, like,
it's disgraceful.
There's a couple of Twitter accounts in particular that are like, oh, well, Bruce isn't that bad, and he's all overreacting. You've got to compare. He's done better than Rafa and all this. And it's like, you haven't got an idea. Like, honestly, they should take up cricket or something. Just take up something else, because if you think Rafa and Bruce are the same league of manager.
The other thing is, Rafa didn't get the money. I'm not being funny, and I said this when I was speaking to James Zara. Like, Rafa only just got the 25 million for Almiron. 6 months later, it's 40 million on Joelinton. Have that. It just undermined Rafa, and Bruce has actually had money. He spent over 100 million. Like, you think Jamal Lewis, Callum Wilson.
Look at the strikers. The strikers Rafa had in comparison. We had to play Joselu,
Yoshimoto,
Mutu, well, that one. in the
Rondon.
well, I loved Rondon, I did, but in
Yeah.
the championship we had
Daryl
Daryl
Murphy and
Murphy,
Mitro.
like, and we made the best of them. Do you know what I mean? And
Daryl Murphy was a baller in the championship.
He was really good. He surprised us as well, to be fair. And I thought he would have stayed on, but Rafa let him go. But
Then he knocked us out, didn't he, in the cup?
he did. I was at Forest that night. That was something to behold, that performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously Bruce has had the resources to make it work. I mean, if Rafa had this team now,
we'd be top 8.
Would be. I think we'll be in the top 5, mate. Because you look at how close it is, and like as bad as we've been, we're 6 points from that end of the table. And I think with Rafa in charge, with the core of defenders that obviously built is still there now, all we'd need is a right back. Because I don't think Rafa would have signed Krafth, not a chance.
No.
But
I don't think anyone would have signed Krafth. I still don't get why we signed him.
5 million, man.
He had one good game and it was Spurs away last season.
I thought he was the worst player that day.
Did you?
Yeah, I thought
that was the only good game he's had.
I thought he was the worst defender by a street. He made 2 errors that led to really good Tottenham chances, and he slipped out with the ball. And I don't think he's had a good game. The only one where I thought it was like, was like Bournemouth when we beat them 3-1 last season. That was the only good game I thought decent game I thought.
Is that the one where Yedlin scored the fucking bullet header?
No, it was away from home and we went down to Bournemouth and we beat them on their own patch.
It was 5-0 that. 4-5-0.
I know they scored because Dan Gosling put one past in the last minutes. I think it was 4-1, 3-1. We'll do my head in that.
I can't remember. We're in the orange kicks. I remember Lazaro scored.
Right.
It was 4-1.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But yeah.
That's the only time I've seen Krafth play well, mate. I'll play it decent. And even then, Bournemouth didn't have Wilson at the time. Fraser was kicking off to leave. The only player they had on the field that was decent going forward was probably that Brooks. And he's doing wonders in the Championship, and he was linked with Man United in the summer. But they didn't have any threats, so Krafth obviously had a good game that day.
Yeah. So with Rafa, does he ever come back? If this takeover goes through?
I think he does, because I think he's got the affiliation with Staveley and stuff like that. I think Rafa would come back in a heartbeat. And I think it would be the best start to a takeover that they could probably do. Because I know there's a couple of better people, he left for China and he left for money and all this stuff. But you've got to look at it and realise why he left. The amount of warnings he gave saying, I need back, I need this. I remember the interview we did after Leicester away on the Friday night.
Yeah.
And he's like, we can't compete with these teams, but if I get a little bit of money, I'm not saying 200 million, I'm just saying like maybe 50 to 80 million a summer, he could keep going up the leagues with his management and stuff and with his type of players, but he never got that backing. So obviously he was like, well, my contract's running down, that's it, I'm going. And he took up the project in China, and obviously, he got a little bit of money out of it, which fair play to him, but like, he didn't want to leave Newcastle, not a chance. He gave the board every chance to stay at Newcastle, and they let him go. Obviously, the main thing with him was the training ground.
That's a big thing for me. Like when the takeover goes through, I don't want players. I want a new training ground.
Yeah,
I want a new youth academy.
I mean, you just look at it, mate. It's fallen to bits. It's still the same training ground from when Sir Bobby Robson was here, and as great as a man he was, and it was you look at the time and stuff, it was probably good facilities around his time, but that was nearly 20 years ago now. You've got to look at it and think, we're a Premier League club, we're one of the biggest teams in the country, the 9th most successful club in England, and we'll have a training ground that's League 2 level, conference level, and it's no surprise to me where we were the one team to have the COVID outbreak in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Because of the training facilities being so far behind conditions to be able to work in that kind of environment. It doesn't surprise me one bit, mate. Because you look at all the London teams, the outbreak of COVID in London is significantly higher than it is up here. And like
they've been fine.
They don't have a mass outbreak of 8-9 players, but yet Sunderland and Newcastle have been the 2 main teams. Why is that? Do you know what I mean? It's like training facilities on both are not at the level they should be, and yet we're the 2 with the main outbreaks. It's not a coincidence, mate.
No, definitely. But I remember when it looked like the takeover was going through, and that Ashley had said publicly, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah.
I can't explain how much of a dick I became for the next few days to my mate. So I'll be like, because my mate, Zaki's a City fan. I go, nah, enjoy your oil money. Nah, we'll fucking have that. But even though we'd be the richest club in the world, we're willing to say Mbappe, Neymar. The main thing for me, I wanted a new training ground, I wanted a new youth academy, I wanted Rafa back, and for the love of Christ, please get an extension to St James's Park.
Yeah, it was just the little things. Like the main
Yeah.
thing for me was getting Ashley out the door and probably Bruce with him. But like,
Yeah.
it was I was never full in on it because obviously my two mates, Man United fans, were like, "Oh, surely you can't say it's not going to happen now, Kyle. Everything's agreed. It's on Sky." Even Ashley said, "I says it's Mike Ashley. He'll find a way to cock it up." And it's not because of Mike Ashley. It's all went to shit, but it's like to find a way to put it through, to make it fall through. And I know there's a lot going on with the consortiums and that, and I'm fully behind what they're doing. I really am. It's just, I don't know, the optimist in us with where the takeover is concerned just isn't there. It's like the Premier League will find a way for this takeover not to happen
The
to
thing
protect
for
their
me,
own investment.
the fact that Ashley has got two lawyers who've never lost a case, that was the thing for me, because I'm not being funny. In his head, surely he must think, well, I know they're all right. If I sue the Premier League, get money for them, and then get money for the takeover, he'll be the one taking advantage of all of this. So it makes sense for Ashley to fucking try it. So
I mean, it does.
I hope it does go through. I really do.
I'm in the same boat, mate, and I'm sure if the takeover goes through, we'll get on a podcast together. All the podcasters will get on a podcast, and we'll just flip we'll
Get
hammer
pissed.
it. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, I hope if I've seen the reputation of Nick DeMarco, and I've seen he's vicious. Like the thing is, for me, if he's taken on the case, then he knows
Says
there's
a lot.
potential in it. And he knows the Premier League don't have a leg to stand on. Because the way I look at it is, if the Premier League have been corrupt with being sports and all this stuff, every email, every text, every call, everything will be looked at, every private meeting. I mean, look at Project Big Picture as an example. It's
Sorry,
like,
my wire's just gone out.
oh, don't worry, mate, it's all good.
There we
But,
go. There now. Sorry.
you look at Project Big Picture, and it's like,
Yeah, that's a big one.
like they've invited six representatives to a meeting and left the other 14 out, and it's like, you don't conduct business, you don't run a league with 6 teams, and then knowing about the European Super League and all this shit, and it's like,
No.
jog on, will you?
Shit.
Man United would be the whipping boys of it for a start, and like it would kill footballers, would not? It'd be like, oh, Man United are playing Real Madrid in the back arse of Mongolia or some shit. It's game 46 of the season in the Super League, and it's like, that's not football. It's just not.
It's not the point. It's like you called Manchester United or Newcastle United. If you're not playing in Manchester, it's an away game. But they're never going to play in Manchester or like Newcastle. You're never going to play in Newcastle for it. There's no point.
No.
And this is why they're trying that I want to get my words out. UEFA Conference League. Have you seen it? So it's an additional European.
Oh, the third tier. I'm not gonna lie, mate. If we won it, I'd celebrate it like I would celebrate if we won an
European
FA Cup.
trophy.
Right? Damn right. It'd be the second biggest accomplishment in our history. Flipping right.
But the thing is that I think is, does that then get us into the Europa League? Because when you win the Europa League, you get Champions League.
If you win that, you get into the Europa League, and
I'll take that.
I think with our team, we could be competitive in the Europa League if we didn't have Steve Bruce. Because I honestly think the current squad, if we added a right back and a good passing midfielder like a Tielemans who plays for Leicester, someone of that caliber, and a right back like a Kieran Trippier or a Reece James who plays for Chelsea, you add those two type of players to the squad we have, and you give
instant change,
and you give it a modern manager who's going to come in and play on the front foot and try and win games instead of just trying to sit back and hope. I think there's capability of a top 10 team, top 9, top 8, maybe even challenging for this Conference League. So like, there is potential in that team, but I just think we're being held back by this manager, mate.
Yeah,
And the owner, of course.
There's one player throughout all this is really interesting to me. It's Isaac Hayden. Now I don't even remember when he got sent off at Cardiff.
I was there
years ago, and he wanted to leave the club. Everyone was fucking fuming with him.
Yeah, I was too.
the fact he's managed to turn this around, I will not be surprised if he's the first player to leave.
Yeah,
Because if he leaves, that's a big loss. Because I really rate Isaac. I think he should be in the England squad ahead of Declan Rice.
I agree. He's such a good defensive midfielder, and he's underrated because he plays for Newcastle. I mean, Southgate thinks anything north of Leeds is Scotland. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's mental, given he played the best part of his career at Middlesbrough. But like, yeah, Hayden's a fantastic player, and I remember being at Cardiff, being so pissed off with him because I travelled down, I stayed overnight above a nightclub, so I didn't get any fucking sleep. And I'm knackered, and Hayden comes on, gets sent off 10 minutes later, and
This one where Kennedy missed the penalty as well at the end.
yeah, he missed the penalty because Mutu got a penalty for a handball, and it was in front of the away end as well. And this lad, I don't know his name. I don't know. I can't even remember what he looked like. I was on his shoulder. I'm like, if this goes in, mate, I'm raggling you half to death. But like, Kennedy obviously misses the penalty, and it's 0-0 to deflate and drive up because Cardiff. He
It's a
been to
long
Cardiff.
drive.
It's
Yeah.
a long, long drive, and it's so awkward to get to, and just that deflating feeling of we could have won that day, and it was like, and then Hayden was overriding factor saying I want to leave and stuff, and it was like, I remember a game in the FA Cup against Blackburn, and he was shocking that day. He was really bad, and I actually says on one of the fan cams that I did for NFTV back in the day, I hope that was his last game. How wrong was that? That's the biggest cock up I've made on camera to this point, saying that I wish that was his last game. His turnaround, man, because obviously he did his interview explaining his daughter and that 2 years old going up and down the country, and obviously people were like, you know what, fair enough. If you stay out this season, you ended on good terms in the end. One Isaac Hayden singing at the Gallagher end, clapping and stuff, and then things started to change, and he was like, "Oh, I might stay on," and obviously he's stayed on. He's doing really well, and he's been arguably our best player this season. When he's played, we've looked a lot better in the midfield because you look at when Shelby and Sean play in the midfield together. There's no defensive movement. A player in the midfield, an attacking midfielder, can just run off them, find a pocket of space, no problem, because they don't track runners. And like Hayden does that very well, and his tackles are countless tackles. He'll be remembered as a really good player here, Hayden, when he's long after he's left. Like, very good player. And I think if a new manager were to come in, Hayden would be that anchor midfielder that you need.
Definitely.
The player can play, so the players can play further forward. Very important player to us. Hayden is.
Going from one important player to a shit player who is awful and should never play for the club, Jeff Hendrick.
How do you feel
Why?
against Leeds?
When he scored against Leeds, I missed that goal because I'd gone to make a drink. So I thought, I'll be all right. So I seen it come up on my phone. I thought, surely not. Because it was on Amazon Prime. You can like rewind it. So I saw the goal and I thought, it's lucky. I'll let him off. But the goal against West Ham, I thought he was the best fucking. I thought, what a signing. Yeah. And I realised how wrong I was.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them, mate. I think he does try and he does all this. It's just he's not good enough. They brought him in to replace Bentaleb, and if you look at it like that, would you prefer Bentaleb or Jeff Hendrick? It's like choosing which bollock you'd like kicked. You know, it's like choosing that. But I'd prefer Hendrick because he obviously tries a lot more than Bentaleb does. But he reminds us so much of Jack Colback, mate. He's just so defensive, so negative,
and
at times clueless, and it's just like he's a decent squad player to have, someone to come off the bench or replace an injured player or whatever it may be, but not a first team player, like nowhere near. And I think he's getting a lot of stick because he's not a first team player, but obviously Bruce keeps playing him there, and it's like it's so frustrating.
Right, so coming on to one of the last subjects of this podcast now. So tonight we got Brentford, right? This is going to be released in a week's time. So this is going to be on the 29th. So we'll go through a scenario here. If we win, what's happening? And if we lose, what's happening?
If we lose, I think it's going to be really toxic on Twitter and stuff and online, calling for his head. Because it's the best chance we've got of making a semi-final since we last made a semi-final, 2004, 2005 time. And like it's a massive chance for Newcastle, massive chance. But with how degraded and quite frankly sick of how the fans feel so sick of Bruce, they can't even get up for a quarter final. Like last season, I remember against Man City, I was up for the quarter final.
Yeah.
right, come on, well, there's a bit of hope here, and then we'll lay it down and died for them. And there's just a fear we're just going to do that again because we've done it for every team this season. There's been once this season we've had more possession than the other team.
Was that a 7-0?
7-0 against Morecambe. Burnley, West Brom, Fulham have all had more possession than us, and they don't like having possession, but they've still had more than Newcastle. I mean, Fulham had 10 men for 35 minutes, mate, and they still had more possession than we. It's actually ridiculous.
By the way, was that a penalty?
What, the West Brom one?
No,
I
the
was.
Fulham one.
The Fulham one. I thought it was actually. I thought he clipped his heels in the box and we got the penalty. But then again, mate, it just sums up the look of Steve Bruce because that was one attack in the game. Miggy runs forward, he plays Wilson in, and he gets a penalty, and the bloke gets sent off. That just sums up Bruce's luck because if it stayed at 11 men, we'd have got beat by 2 or 3 that game. But Bruce gets his little bit of luck to keep him ticking along. And that's it. Yeah, that's just
it seems like with Bruce, it's just like the luck that's going on. Going on to that, if we beat Brentford, what happens then? Because I feel like a lot of fans will be like, right, okay, but it's a championship team. Because if we're being honest, Brentford are one of the better championship teams over the last few years. Yes, they've lost Ollie Watkins and Saeed Benrahma, but there's still no pushover. They got Ivan Toney in there as well. And he's smashing.
And Buembo as well. He's another one. He's a one to watch out for tonight. But if we win, I think there'll be a little bit of optimism towards the semi-final. But I don't think Bruce will get any credit at all. Because at the end of the day, we should be looking at this type of team and being like, we should be able to go out and bully these. Do you know what I mean? And like, no disrespect to Brentford, I like watching them play. But I honestly don't see we're winning. And yeah, this goes out in a week's time, and I might look like a bit of an idiot, but the way Brentford play is very high press. Newcastle have played a couple of high pressing teams this season, and we haven't had an answer for any of them. Obviously, we played Leeds, felt a bit. Brighton, high pressing team, felt a bit. Southampton, high pressing team, felt a bit. And it's like these are teams we should be competing with in the league, and they're just bullied with high press. And Brentford are very the same kettle of fish, and it's just a case of whether we can handle it. If we can handle it, then I can see we're getting past them. But I see Bruce sitting back, inviting the high press on, and we'll get beat because as favourable as a draw as it is for Newcastle, Brentford, looking at the last 8, would be like, right, we either want Stoke at home or Newcastle at home, and they got Newcastle. So they'd be like, go and get at them. They're there to be got at. And they would have seen the highlights and stuff from the last couple of games, watching, seeing how we're doing. Be like, these are shit. Like, these are there to be got at. From a Brentford perspective, this will be the biggest game of their season, and they're looking at us and they'll be like, you know what I mean? Like, they'll be hungry for this, and it's whether it's at the end of the day, it's going to be who wants it more. And it's like our players haven't wanted a win all season. You've got a couple of players here and there, Wilson and like there's players that do want it and are hungry for it, but there's more players that aren't. And it's like that whole Brentford team are going to be up for it tonight. And it's like I just fingers crossed we can get past them. But the way I feel about Newcastle at the minute, it's probably the worst I've felt about Newcastle. So like I'm very negative about everything, and I hate to be. I don't want to be anti-Newcastle, but I just can't see we're winning any of the next 4 or 5 games. Like you just know we'll play Arsenal next month and we'll make them look like Barcelona. As shit as they've been, they'll pass circles round with and they'll beat us by 2 or 3 like they did in January. Do you know what I mean? And it's like Bruce has got to go, man. He's just such a negative cancer on this football club, as is Mike Ashley. But I've always said I'll take this shit season if obviously it goes to court and we'll get the takeover that we want and stuff, and then we've got a future to go to. Then Bruce can say he steadied the ship while he was here, and obviously we'll move into the next part of the next chapter with future and stuff. But I'll only take it if that takeover happens. If next season we're sitting here and we're talking about Steve Bruce again, honestly, mate, I don't think we'll have hair. I think it'll be. I think it'll have. I think.
I've lost half manager a lot now.
I've grown mine out, but I think I'll be changing my podcast to the Baldy Man podcast because Paul already doesn't have any hair. I'm on the way out, so it's like
So I'm wearing a fucking True Geordie hoodie right now, and all my mates just they started taking the piss out of me. Just because I've got this little fucking scruff on my face. Like, how are you, man? I'm not Brian.
That's
Far from him.
Yeah, fair play to him. Like, with his Twitch deal and that, he's
Yeah, I
doing
was
well.
so happy for him.
He's from the same neck of the woods as me, Billy Mill. Used to live in the same estate as me and stuff, and the same do so well. It's good. I know there's like a cancel culture around YouTube and stuff, and people like to see like other channels and that knock down a peg. But honestly, from where he's came from to do what he's done, I used to watch him when he was sitting on his couch
With a fucking pint of Stella or Guinness.
way back when, man. I've supported him a long time, and I'm buzzing that he's managed to go and interview Shearer, and buzzing what he's managed to do with the kickoff as well. So fair play to him, man.
He was one of my main inspirations for starting this.
Yeah, he was one of mine for going on YouTube and that as well. I don't think he realizes how many people he's actually inspired, and I know he had the week of the Tottenham away game, he had the DMs and that, but like it's a little setback for him, man. He's went on and he laughed at himself. He responded brilliantly, and obviously he's went on to do bigger things again. And I really hope he hits the 10 million subscribers and that and stuff, because he does deserve it. He works bloody hard, and you look at the quality of the live streams and stuff.
It's better than Sky.
It is. It's much better than Sky. And you look at like other YouTube channels like AFTV. They're sitting on chairs with squares around them and that, and like there's others that are sitting in their rooms and live streaming the thoughts on the game. And he's got like camera angle here, there, everywhere around a lovely table, and it's like he's streets ahead. He's streets ahead of what the competition is. I don't think in terms of live watch-alongs with the game, I don't think he'll be touched. I think he'll be like the top dog of that for a long time.
No, definitely. I really want to meet him one day, just to fucking shake his hand and go, one, you've helped me start a podcast, which has been the best thing that's fucking happened to me in a long, long time. And also, his earlier podcast, we were talking about 4 years ago now when he first started, like, I remember listening to them as a fucking 14-year-old going, this is some fucking deep shit. I feel like I've grown up with him into a man. Like, it's weird to say that, but I do.
It is, but like last couple of years, grew up with him and watched him mold his channel, and obviously Lawrence came in and the podcast, and I've watched him grow, and it's a wicked thing to see, like especially when he's like from where I'm from, and he's like had the same hopes and dreams I have, and it's like he's killing the game, man. I've got nothing but respect for the bloke. I really haven't. He's just what he's managed to do is fantastic. He just needs to stop buying them expensive cars and putting himself in debt.
Exactly. I think this is a fantastic way to end the podcast, and I would also like to extend the offer for you to come back on anytime, mate, because I thoroughly enjoy this.
I've enjoyed it as well, and as I says to you in the messages, I mean, I'm an open book. I'll talk about out, mate. I'll talk about boxing, gaming, YouTube, as we've just said there. I'll willing to talk about out, mate, and yeah, it's been a good podcast, mate. It's been a nice way to fly about an hour, but
yeah, man.
Fingers crossed for the night. Hopefully,
mate. By the time they're watching this, I will include like a little thing for like with the score, and it'll just be above my head or like below me. And it'll either be fucking ding dang do, because I've got a studio recording tomorrow. Like I'm up and out at 9 in the morning because we're like stockpiling all these recordings and that.
Yeah.
So I can't even drink tonight when I'm watching the match. So I'll go to bed fuming. Wake up tomorrow, be at the studio for 9 in the morning, going, "Fucking come on, set it up." But,
if we win, like just get that song, just get that one, and with obviously what I've said about the high press and stuff, just use it for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Mate, it's been a really good podcast. I've really enjoyed it, and I'd be more than happy to come on. But at the same time, if you want to ever come on mine and Paul's podcast, you can.
Yeah, man, I'll come on anytime, mate.
Yeah, it's been good. I've really enjoyed it, mate, honestly.
Yeah, man. Well, make sure to check us out on Spotify. All of Magpie 24/7 and Kyle's socials will be in the description and below himself. Mine are here. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.